Welcome back to the Real with Joseph Labman. I am Joseph Labman. Hope you guys having a Joseph Labman, if I could say that right. Hope you guys having a great week. Yeah, it's starting to feel like spring outside. Nice, almost 70 today. It felt like outside. I think it was like 65 and sunny where I was. So, getting warmer here, get close to the spring, so that's good. If you're happy like me about the warmer weather coming in and spring around the corner, hit the like button for me on the way in. I'd really appreciate that. Everybody smash the like button for me. Make that automatic on the way in. Helps me fight the algorithms. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate that. It really helps my channel grow. It's free. All you have to do is just hit subscribe. That's it. That's all there is to it. Nothing else, nothing more. You're not getting harassed or anything. So, or anything like that. You just hit subscribe and just basically like a follow button on social media. So I really appreciate that. Leave a comment below after today's show as well. I'd love to hear your feedback. And I'm excited to get into today's show. The topic for today's show is a more than anxiety moment today. The unknown is safe, right? The unknown is safe is what I've titled today's show. Now, what do I mean by that? The unknown is safe. And I wanted to get into this today because a lot of people, my main purpose on this channel, obviously, we just wrapped up football season. So took a couple weeks off to kind of decompress a little bit, kind of regroup, and did some things in my personal life I needed to get done as well. So, um, used some great things. So God is good there, and as always, good. But I did some really big things recently in my life. But I kind of wanted to sit back recently and just kind of think about what I want to do with the show and how I want to expand it. I want to do more things. So, now that football season's over with, we're beyond that because we've kind of went all in for that for about a couple, pretty much most of the season, especially the last like 3 4 months. So, which was awesome. It was fun, and we're looking forward to next season and getting ready for the off season stuff coming up here in a couple weeks. So, but I want to get back to my main purpose of this channel, which is um, mainly my experience with my mental health disorders in terms of anxiety, agoraphobia, panic, hypochondria, GAD, the whole thing. Just the battle of fear I went through basically for 8 years. And so, getting back to that, and sharing my spirit, my relationship with my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and how He's helped me along the way, and sharing the good news and helping others to encourage you guys and encourage others, to encourage you guys to help encourage others as well. And so making like a chain reaction. But today though, this is more of an anxiety support. Um, with a little bit of spiritual things as well. They always go hand in hand. Something I always I heard Dennis Simsek, my guy, the anxiety guy, number one guy on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed, to go subscribe. He said recently, I heard a video I watched recently from him is he made a great point. He goes, if you don't have some type of whatever you believe in, whether you don't believe in God or believe in something though, you have to have some type of spiritual belief. Because if you don't, and like he said, we'll see you. He said, I'll see you back down the road of my channel again because you have to start there with a belief. If you don't believe in anything, what's your foundation? What's your motivation? What's your stronghold? What's your you know what I mean? There's no way I would have made it to what I made it through in 8 9 years had I not had my relationship, most importantly with Jesus. As a Christian, if I didn't have the relationship and all the times that He showed me, and even still now in my life, He shows me uh, that He's there and that everything's okay, and He calms my spirit, I wouldn't be this far. You have to believe in something. If you don't believe in anything, you'll fall for anything. If you don't believe in something, you'll fall for anything. And so, and there's a lot of people out there nowadays falling for anything, and they don't feel safe because they don't believe in they can't accept the unknown. The unknown isn't safe to them. And so, for a lot of anxiety sufferers like myself, what I was for 8 years, um, and now in my life now I've been kind of working getting out of back to normalcy, getting out of that agoraphobia. Agoraphobia is where you have a fear. For me, it was like I didn't really go out in public settings or go so far away from my house for so many years. I stayed in a radius, and I stayed in a box and hid away from people for years. That was my agoraphobia. Like I saw Jim at one time in the news. You can look this up if you type in agoraphobia on YouTube, you'll find us. I think it was a CBS did a thing, or NBC. I can't remember which one. One of a big time news channel, like a story on this guy about 4 years ago, I think it was. He didn't leave. He didn't go a mile from his house for almost like 10 years. And that's what agoraphobia is. And so, for me, it's like getting out of like prison basically and getting back into normal life and reacclimating, seeing how things are now. And not that I didn't know what was going on. Obviously, I was still out. I know what was going on, but just getting back to that normal day to day life. And so that's kind of what I've been going through now. And so there's been moments at times where, you know, the unknown. I faced a lot of unknowns in this last year, especially. A lot of unknowns. Maybe things, um, things didn't go the way I wanted them to, or maybe God had a different plan, or getting back to normalcy and seeing new things and doing different things I hadn't done in so long that I've been kind of unpracticed in for a long time. It felt, feels very unknown, but I know it's safe. But what's helped me get to that point, and don't get me wrong, it's not easy, right? Especially people with anxiety, our minds. 'Cause I've been one of you guys. I know what you think, and I've been inside what goes on inside of your bodies and your minds. I know. Um, it's a lot of overthinking, a lot of trying to figure everything out, solve everything, and worrying, and it's this constant like tug of war in us between our mind, between peace, our higher selves and our lower selves, which is our anxiety. That tug of war, like, no, 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 we need to worry. No, we don't need to worry. It's okay. We're safe. What I mean? We're not alone. But it's a constant tug of war. And so the unknown is safe. Why do I say that? Because when you try to fight things that we don't know the answer to because we're not in control of anything. Because what if you're struggling with the unknown of things? Let's say you maybe you're a hypochondriac and you're worried about your health for some reason. Maybe you didn't sleep well last night or something. I don't know. Hypochondriacs think about many different things. Or maybe maybe you're a little tired. You'll feel a little sleepy. You think it's going to lead to something, or you have this feeling in your body. The doctor told you is okay and you're safe and that you're fine, but it just still feels unknown to you. Or maybe there's things in your life that you feel unknown. There's things going on the outside world. There's a lot of things nowadays going on in the outside world that we're worried about because the news. We look at the news all day. We feel the unknown doesn't feel safe. We don't know what's going to happen with people around us we love. That unknown doesn't feel good with us and to sit well with us. So we need the answers right now. And we try to control, right? We try to control the outcome a lot of times. We try to, manipulate things, but we try to force our will. We try to control things. We try to find things out. We try to sit around and dwell on it all day, right? Or we try to fight. All the times we try to fight. We try to, which is very normal a lot of times. What this is a normal part of us. It's our fight or flight. When we feel threatened or we feel nervous or we feel whatever, we get this like ball of energy to go out and fight and to figure it out. And, I'm gonna go conquer the world, or I'm gonna go defend myself or defend whatever, figure it out. We try to we try to control it, we try to fight it, we try to worry about it, but we also try to prevent it. We try to prevent the worst fear from happening. Because all right, we fear the unknown of all these things because we think there could be a worst case scenario that frightens us, it scares us. So we try to prevent things from happening. You put all those things together, control, trying to control things, fight, worry, prevent. It just puts a tighter grip around you. And that oftentimes causes franticness. We get frantic, causes franticness. And with the franticness, we start to feel that panic and that anxiety and the symptoms, and our mind starts to go crazy, or we feel like we're going crazy. We're not actually going crazy, but we feel like we're going crazy, right? And we start to think we're losing control. All right. Or we fear we're going to lose control, not only of our bodies, but just things in our life in general. Right. We start to, we worry, we get frantic. And this frantic stage, a lot of times, is what causes the tension, the hyperventilation or the shallow breathing. Those two things together is what causes a lot of the symptoms. We get exhausted. A lot of times, that exhaustion, we try to go to sleep at night, but our adrenals, everything's so shot up, has been so shot and so overworked that it's hard for us to fall asleep for a couple of days in a row or whatever, or a night or whatever, right? Because our body's just so up and down. Our mind, our body, and now our spirit is low. That's how you get depressed. That's how you get down. That's how you get low, right? Because the unknown doesn't feel safe. But I have three questions for you to ask yourself today, right? These are three things that really helped me uh, realize that the unknown is safe. And number one would be a realization you have to ask yourself is, are you in control? Because you're not in control. We're not in control. Because if we were in control, things would be the way we want them to be, right? I mean, if we were in control of all things, some of you listening right now are probably thinking, gee, I'd probably be with this person by now, or I'd had this by now, I'd be a millionaire, have all this money by now, or if I were in control, this wouldn't be happening in the world, this would never happen, or I would have this in my life, I wouldn't feel this anymore. But we're not in control, right? We don't control anything. God's in control of all things, and everything's in the presence of God. And again, this is why it's important for you to find you have to believe in something or you'll fall for anything. And so going back to that franticness, you start to begin to fall for everything you feel. You start to believe it and you fall for it and you analogize and you label it and you rush to WebMD or you rush to Google, Dr. Google, and you start getting frantic and you start listening to everybody else's online and comments and everything. And oh my gosh, people said I need to do this or else this is, we put so much information in our mind that a lot of times it's misinformation and not real, doesn't apply to us. But also it makes us more frantic. But again, back to my first point, you're not in control. I'm not in control of my life. Because if I was in control back when I was 15 years old, or even 2 years ago, or a year ago, things in my life would have went the way I wanted them to go. But instead, they went the way God wanted them to go because He's in control. And looking back at it now, God knew what He was doing all along. Because had I had control of what I wanted to do, it would have been a mess. It would have been a failure, right? And I'll just be completely honest with you, this is the real. Had I gone to school, stayed in like stayed in school when I was in high school, had I gone off to college, I'd have been miserable in college because it would have been during the COVID years, and I probably would ended up leaving college, or I'd have felt very uncomfortable, and it wouldn't have just been for me personally. I would have been in a worse spot and probably would have went through a lot of hell of a lot worse anxiety and worse things had I went stayed in school. Now that's just for me. Some of you guys out there, you had to go through that. And you had to, and I salute to you guys. It was hard on everybody in every way, right? Especially as students. I remember I say kids, people I knew my age or a couple years younger than me in college at that time, and the stuff they were going through was crazy. But for me, though, I know I wouldn't have stayed in that environment where I'd have felt very, very uncomfortable. I'd have been faced with some hard decisions in that environment. I could have been misled, right? I could have been pulled away further from my spirit, my relationship with Christ. But God knew what He was doing all along. He knew 5 years in advance what was going to happen because God can do that. God sees everything. God does that. He knows what's ahead. He's already gone ahead of us, right? And so God was in control, but I'm not in control because had I been in control, I would have been in a situation I would have hated. I may have been in relationships I would have hated, right? I may have, again, but you have to look at it from that angle and realize you're not in control. Because if we were in control, like I said, we would have things the way we want them to, but we can't. But that's where you have to learn to let go and trust that you can let go. And on this, my second point would be, what's the evidence you have? What's the evidence of that worst case scenario? Because a lot of times the things we're frightened about are things we've been frightened about before. The things we've been scared of for years, and nothing's ever happened. Like for me with my hypochondria, I heard so many illusions growing up, and false fears and things I misinterpreted as a kid because I was already in a frantic state. And so as I got older, I started to believe these things. I started to believe something was wrong with me. Or, oh my gosh, I didn't sleep 6 or 7, 8 hours last night or 6 hours. Oh my gosh, I feel horrible. Something's wrong. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. Everything was, oh my gosh, everything's the worst case scenario, right? As a hypochondriac, which is a lot of people with anxiety I know are watching are going through or have gone through or starting to experience, whatever, right? Or if I don't, have X, Y, and Z by a certain age, I'm not gonna be good enough. I'm not gonna fit in. People aren't gonna accept me. I'm gonna feel embarrassed. People are gonna say I'm a letdown, right? We start believing all these illusions in our head that aren't true. But what's the evidence towards these things? You have to ask yourself, right? What's the evidence? Because a lot of times, here's where I really have to go over when I go over my anxiety, going through the inner circle program by the anxiety guy, which I'll link below, highly recommend if you want to be free from anxiety, is realizing, okay, this is where it started when I was a kid, or certain age groups, or certain times in my life where I started to fear these things, where I heard this misinformation, things that weren't true didn't apply to me, right? And what was the evidence? And I had to ask myself, ask yourself, how many times have you been through this where you feared this certain outcome or incident and nothing happened? Nothing happened. And a lot of times things maybe only do happen because our prevention is so high, you can fall into bad habits, right? Maybe putting things in our body we should be doing, overdoing things, right? I think that's how a lot of things are started because of stress and fear, stress from fear. It leads to bad habits a lot oftentimes. We eat things and we just overeat or we not eat enough, right? But ultimately though, what's the evidence though do you have? You're still here, you're still alive, you're watching this video today, you're safe and you're healthy, like me. And I had to ask myself all the times when I was in my real bad hypochondria days, like I gave examples for. Joseph, what is the evidence you have? I mean, you've already been through the worst. What evidence do you have that this would happen to you? And why do you have to try to prevent it from happening? When the doctor said you're fine, everyone around, your parents, your friends say you're fine, and also not only that, you're not alone either. You're not the one that's gone through it, going through it right now, or will go through it. You're no different than anyone else. So why do we put all this pressure on ourselves, right? Because when you look at it like that, what's the evidence? And I asked myself, what's the evidence I have for this? It was none. None of my fears I had any evidence. And the ones that maybe the only evidence I had was maybe people I knew that had problems or had that issue, whatever that fear was, let's say, like hypochondria wise, had that ailment. It was things that they knew when we would know by now, or they was because of certain obvious causes. But even then, though, if you're somebody maybe has an ailment, you're in lockstep with your doctor. Like I said, you're here, you're safe, you're alive today, you're healthy today. You're good, you're okay. You can tell yourself, I am okay. You can relax. But again, what's your real evidence that this will happen? But also, what's your evidence that you can prevent it? You can't. Which again means you could be safe in the unknown if you really think of that. Think of what I just said. What's the evidence you have that you've prevented something, right? That you're in control. Because remember, you're not in control. We broke that down in point one. And in point two, what's the evidence you have? You don't have any. Look at all you've made it through in your life. Whoever I'm 24, whether you're 50 something, 60 something, whatever, 40, 30, I don't know, whatever age you are. What evidence do you really have for your life, for you, that your fears will happen? And yet, once you ask yourself that question, what's the evidence I have? A lot of times you compile it and it's nothing. Now you can say, what's the evidence I have that it won't happen? And a lot of times, like for me, oftentimes it was doctor said I'm fine. Other people go through this. Other people, this is a very normal thing. The way I feel, my body reacting normally. I'm safe. I've been through this many, many times. Nothing's ever happened. Right. And I always we all find comfort, which is why I do this show mainly, and hearing other people know that, hey, you're not alone. That's a big evidence point too. I think we can all put in there is we're not alone because you're not. Whatever you're going through, somebody else and probably hundreds of thousands of other people are going through right now, if not millions. Everybody's gone through it, or has gone through it, or will at one point in their life. So again, what's the evidence we have for and against it? A lot of times, here's for, not much. Against it, a lot. Right. And so that would be my second point of why is the unknown safe? So the first point was you're not in control. Second point is what's the evidence? Some high quality H2O right there. And the third point would be, what am I really gaining? What are you gaining from all this? From worrying? What are you gaining? More stress, more anxiety, more of those icky feelings, more of missing out on things, more of staying in your house out of fear, missing out on interactions, living your life, doing the things you want to do, which I did for many years with agoraphobia. And like I said, thankfully now by the grace of God, breaking out of. But what are you really gaining? What are you really gaining? That's how I had to ask myself, what am I gaining from this by worrying like this and put all the stress and pressure on myself that's so unnecessary, putting beat my body up like that, making it so tired and affecting people around me. What am I gaining from this? I'm not gaining anything. The only thing I was actually losing. I was losing out on time. I was letting time go. I was letting myself sit and be idle and isolated and not being happy in certain moments. And always had to make it harder on myself to get out or to, move on or to get out of a hole. I'd put myself in a deeper hole because I wasn't in control to begin with. And a lot, it's funny. If you have a really divine perspective, right? And this is how you know the unknown is safe, right? So recently for me, I'll give you guys a story before I get into my last point. I got a video for you guys I'm gonna play today that really goes great. It's a good, incredible story that goes along with this. But this is kind of different from the unknown is safe. But for a long time, when I left the school I was at 15 years old, I was very angry with certain people, right? Hated certain people, to be quite honest with you, because I thought how they treated me. And for years, I held that grudge, held it. I mean, just every time I thought I'm never going to talk with people again, and as time went on, I would say, I wish them well, but I don't really like them. There was still that anger inside, that venom, right? That just that, what they did to me, how I felt they treated me, right? And it wasn't until God started to move me and God started to shake me up and say, Joseph, you're making this hard on you. You're carrying other people's burdens and baggage. And that anger is only affecting you. And it started to really wear on me, gave me more anxiety, more tension, right? More relapses, more setbacks, and so forth, more struggle. And it wasn't until finally I just started to say, you know what? Maybe what I'm believing was a lie. Maybe they didn't know maybe these guys were going through at the time what they were going through. And, I didn't not like anybody in my house knew what was going on at the time either. And who am I to be mad at other people? Maybe I just misinterpreted them. Maybe they were going through stuff. Why do I take things so personally, hold it so close and carry that anger in that uh, venom or that whatever that vengeance or whatever you're seeking, right? Whatever. This is an example. Why do I try to grip onto that? Why can't I just let it go? Because it was my own pride and my own ego. But also, I felt somebody had to be blamed for how I felt. When in reality, it wasn't. God was in control of everything. They weren't. I wasn't. My parents weren't. And God allowed it for a reason that I didn't find out till years down the road. And I gave one of those examples earlier. And once I started to realize those things, once I started doing this podcast, especially, I started to open up to, you know what? Maybe I'll give that person a chance. Or maybe let them know how I felt and reach out to them and let them know that, you know, I forgive and it's okay. It wasn't your fault. And whether they accept it or not, just to know in my heart, I know it's where God was leading me to do. And I did it finally. And you know what I found out? The person apologized. The person acknowledged where they went wrong. The person realized they were younger and immature at that time and didn't know how to handle that situation. And they apologized. And the person turned out to be a really great person and doing great things now for kids, high schoolers. leading young men. And had I not known that, had I not taken the risk and just went with the unknown, I would have been believing an illusion for years. It only would have made it harder on me, right? And so that's my example in my life that I can give to you guys. And I'm open up more about that story one day because it happened recently. And so, but again, it shows you divine. But only that, it's like somebody said to me recently too. It reminded me, like, if you're trying to get from point A to point B, you can make it really hard or a little easier on yourself. Oftentimes, when we try to grip and try to control things and figure things out, we make it a lot harder. You can slow ourselves down. You're going to get to point B at one point because it's in God's will for you to get there, whether you believe it or not. You can make it harder, you make it easier. And that's embracing the unknown. And so, before I get out of here today, though, I have another video from one of my role models in life, Laird Hamilton, big wave surfer, legendary big wave surfer, probably the greatest big wave surfer of all time. Fair use on this video as well. It's fair use for educational purposes, no commentary or anything. Just for fair use educational purposes. Okay, thank you, YouTube. But if they want to take it, I'll take it out. But I think it should be a problem. But Laird Hamilton's given an example here about one time he was stuck out stranded in sea one day. He was filming a movie. He was out filming on jet skis. They were filming a movie or something. And he went the wrong way. They were kind of out further away from the Hawaiian Islands, and he kind of got lost. And he got stranded out in the sea by himself for a day. So imagine that. You're stuck out on a jet ski out in the middle of the ocean for a day. You have no control, no nothing. Just like your anxiety, right? Imagine your anxiety in this scenario. The unknown, you don't know what's gonna happen. You just think you're just gonna die. And what do? You're stuck out at sea, stranded in sea, nothing around you but water, nobody around you, nothing. Nothing at all. It's just you, your jet ski, and God. What do? Well, here's what Laird Hamilton did. And listen to this incredible, incredible story here um, from Laird. And again, fair use.
You talk about some near-death experiences that you've had surfing.
Yes, sir.
Can we go into some of those?
Yes, sir. I mean, I've been lost at sea. So I spent a day and a half out in the ocean, way like in Hawaii, about 60 miles offshore, which was a different kind of being near death. I would think that was just a longer time to think about it, but without really any imminent threat right away. Right. So no imminent threat right away, but the whole possibility of like, hey, I'm 60 miles from shore. I won't be able to get back. I hope my EPIRB works, and I don't know if it does. And I hope something shows up to pick me up. But if it doesn't, so and I only had a good half a day to think about it, but it was good enough.
Yeah.
Like, is it good enough half a day, half an hour, if you really think it's the end, like, oh, am I going to be eaten by a shark? Am I going to thing? What am I going to do? Am I going to drown? Am I going to thing? Like, what am I going to, all that stuff that runs. And then I've been held under,
So that was Laird. And I heard Laird talk about this on another podcast before. And he said when he was out there on the ocean, right? He said at one point, he just said, it is what it is. Hopefully, like he just said there, hopefully somebody comes and sees me. Hopefully my EPIRB works. If not, what are you going to do about it? He didn't know. He said, I don't know. Did you hear what he said? I don't know. There was an unknown whether anybody would ever find him in that situation. And so what ended up happening in that, because that was a short clip there. I want to play a long clip for you guys, but I'll explain some of it because I've heard the actual whole story. When he was stuck out there, he said he was on the jet ski. And I'm kind of paraphrasing a little bit. He said at one point, being stranded out there for almost, I think it was like 8 to 12 hours or something like that. It was a long time for a day, he said. I mean, 30 minutes would be a long time for a lot of us. But He said at one point he just looked to God, and he just, that's all he had was God. And he said, God, if you please just get me home, you know, forgive me for my sin. You know, he said, Lord, forgive me for my sins. You just bring me home. I'll follow you forever. I remember he said that. I paraphrase a little bit. So I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, Larry, but it was on the one show. The gentleman's name was Lewis. You were on his show and you brought it up. But he all he had was him and God. And he started speaking to God. And then eventually, he said he couldn't. He had to try to save gas. He would go a little bit, and then he would stop the jet ski so he didn't run out of gas. But he wanted to stay mobile in case there was like a shark or something. Um, and so that's all he had. That's all he had was him and his jet ski and what he could do. What he was in control of. All he had was what he was in control with his jet ski and talking to God and just trying to and let go and embrace the unknown. And then eventually a plane flew over him. And the plane saw him. Now, obviously, a plane can't land and pick him up, so the plane saw him waving. They called it in, and then eventually later the Coast Guard came and rescued him out of there on a helicopter, and he made it back to shore safe. But sometimes God will allow us to be feel unknown and feel that unknown in certain situations because He's trying to get our attention fully and solely on Him, right? And oftentimes, the best way for us to get over anxiety and the fastest way for anxiety to go away is to just to wave the white flag. It's not a white flag, but it's a tissue, but it works. You know what I mean? Wave the white flag and just surrendering. Surrender. Because, like we went through earlier, you're not in control. A lot of you probably don't have great evidence, if any, all of us. And what are you really gaining? Nothing. Surrender. Surrender it to God. Let it go. Right? Laird had to surrender. He's out on that jet ski. He had to surrender. He had to let it go. And then he started talking to God. And just his focus was, God, it's in your hands. And God said, I got you. And he sent help and he was rescued out of there and he was fine. And now it's an incredible testimony for other people. Why I'm sharing it on my show today. Some kid in the middle of Ohio. So years later. But you never know. The unknown, you can trust that the unknown is safe because, like I said, you're not alone. But also, you can trust that it's leading to something great and that it's bigger than you. I don't care what age you are, what you've been through, what you used to do, who you think you are. Everybody has something great to bring to the table. You can impact, if you just impact one person's life, then you did it. That's awesome. It what's greater than that? Nothing. It's like I heard the anxiety guy say one time, if you want to be helped, become a helper to others. If you want to be helped, become a helper to others. Right? And that's why I do this show, is trying to help people privately. It helps me. And it helped me grow a long way in the last 2 years to overcoming my anxiety for good. Because I started to realize I wasn't alone. And I started to realize that, hey, you know what? The unknown is safe. Because I really don't control anything. And at this point, I have no evidence. All my fears have never come true. I didn't gain anything but more stress and anxiety and fear that only just weighed on me. Like I said that earlier, I was carrying that anger for years, and it was really an illusion. Had I not reached out to those people, that guy finally, I'd have I would have been believing an illusion the rest of my life. That only would have affected me. But it's the same thing with anxiety, with the unknown. It only affects you if you allow it to. And I get it. I get it. I've been in your guys' shoes, and there's still times, guys. I still have moments now breaking out of the agoraphobia. I have days. Yesterday, I had a day. I had a moment yesterday. Sometimes it wears on me. Sometimes after 9 years, but I know now. Because I know my evidence now is I know I'm safe and I can trust the unknown because I've seen it, not only in my life but other people's. Because I've asked myself those 3 questions, and I've experienced it, and I've surrendered especially in the last year, going through the inner circle program, really taught me how to surrender and let go, and how just letting go and surrendering, really, you see the truth for what things, you see things for what they really are. Because we're not in control, guys. You're not in control. I'm not in control. Only thing we can control is how we respond to things, how we react to things. That's it. You know, we can't control. We saw that 4 years ago. Everything shut down. Did any of us have control of that? Normal people? No. How do you respond? Laird stuck out there in the sea on the jet ski. Did he have any control? No. How did he respond, though? You saw that. And so, and oftentimes God is waiting for us to let go. And then once he sees us move, then he does the rest. The supernatural does the rest. And he will deliver you and give you your miracle with the blessing or whatever you've been waiting for. That's how God moves. And I've seen that in my life. And I've also seen, too, how my story on the internet, my first video I ever did, that a lot of people saw, and a lot of things I've done, and my story and other people's stories, how it impacts other people. It's bigger than you. You have to realize it's bigger than you. And again, that's where you have to put your pride and your ego aside. Because a lot of this is, that's what it is. It's our own pride and ego. And maybe when you were younger, maybe when you were times in your life growing up, you felt like you were abused, or maybe people controlled you, misused you, right? Like I did when I was 15 years old. But had I let that control me the rest of my life, like I said, I wouldn't believe in an illusion. Because look what happened when I finally reached out and let go and trust in the unknown. I got a response that I wasn't expecting to be that great. But that was all God, because God is great. And I realized who that person really was, and they're actually a pretty good person. Everybody can grow. And that if God can forgive me for my sins, and who am I? Right? And so another way to look at it, something I heard years ago, it always stuck with me, is if Christ can take what he took on the cross, go through what he went through on the cross, and the persecution and the pain, and the mocking and everything he went through for us, what I should have been up there, then I got it pretty good. And who do you think God really is? You think he's just going to set you up to fail? No, God loves you. God doesn't want you to beat yourself up. Doesn't want you to be so caught up in every thought or everything and micromanage yourself, perfectionism, right? Which anxiety turns us into. He doesn't want us to live like that. He intends for us to be free and to grow in his spirit and allow him to lead us, because he controls it. He controls everything, to lead the way, because he is in control. We're not. And so again, the unknown is safe, and you can trust and believe in it, but it starts with your mindset and your belief internally in your spirit, and asking yourself those questions. Because once you do, and write it down on a piece of paper, practice it every day. You know what I mean? Healing's a process. Give yourself time, give yourself grace, and allow yourself to grow each and every day, one step a day at a time, baby steps. Watch how far you get. And a lot of times you get there in a shorter amount of time than you think. You know, it's not some long, drawn out process. It's different speed for different people, but things start to pick up pretty fast, because you get to, like, say you have 10 steps, right? Oftentimes you get to step 2, you feel so good, you feel good, now you get to step 4, and you skip ahead, go to steps. Now you're like, I'm feel good enough to go to step 7, right? And start to speed up. Now you're at the top of step 10. It's the same thing in any process in life. Just give an example. But the unknown is safe. And so that's my show for you guys today. Hope this really helped you guys. Leave a comment below, like, subscribe, share, and all that good stuff. And yeah, like I said, love all you guys. You're more than anxiety. You're not alone. You were heard. You were seen. You know, and just you're not alone. Whatever you're going through right now, you're not alone. Speak up. Just speak out. Find somebody to speak to. Write it down first if you have to. You know, and just reach out to somebody. Reach out to me. Reach out to Dennis, anxiety guy. Somebody you trust around you. Just speak up and let it go. And I promise you, it won't be what you think it is. It'll actually be great. And it'll be the first step towards freedom for you, because you deserve it. So love all you guys. I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm out of here. Go.
Bye.